Good morning. Welcome to Beyond the SEAF Model. I'm Jack Kosar. This is effective for the week of February 10th, 2025. Let's get started. SEAF signals for this week. We retain financials and communication services, and we replace consumer discretionary with industrials. As we can see here, we have a very strong financials with ones across the board. Flows this week for financials, actually flows across the board were relatively light across all sectors. Financials being the top one at 0.18%. I say this pretty much ad nauseum, but we look for a real strong flows at about 0.4. At least that's on average. Our top score each week for the trading week is 0.4%. So this is coming in at 0.18, so a little under half. But again, flows were a little bit on the weaker end. I think the overall theme of this video is going to be that we're at a inflection point. We can go one of two ways here. We can continue a rally, continue the bull market, or we can, set ourselves up for a little bit of a correction. We don't know where we are yet, but everything that we're looking at here today is going to kind of scream at that indecision point. So that's the theme of today. Some other notable things here to see. Materials popping up at a ranking of 14. Again, industrials coming back into the fold here. Really not necessarily on strength. We are seeing some strength from the tactical month and strategic quarter. A little bit of a little reversal on the trading week, but overall, ranking of 13. Energy remains dead at the bottom, and we see like a little bit of life in technology and a little bit of life in real estate and materials. Heading into our heat map. This isn't really in general what I'm looking for when I'm looking at this heat map. I really normally like to see a decisive 3 or 4 green across the board at the top and a lot of red at the bottom. We are seeing a little bit of a mixture, but again, as I said, this video is screaming indecision point. When we start to see the heat map look like this, when we're seeing reds and yellows kind of floating up to the top and some greens floating at the bottom, that tends to tell me on a more of a anecdotal level that our current trend isn't necessarily going to hold. So just, it's going to be something to keep an eye on. It's not something that I have quantified where, a certain amount of green up or a certain amount of red and yellow up top and a certain amount of green at the bottom definitely means that we're shifting. It just, things aren't flowing as hard as we would kind of want to see in a trend where all 3 of our positions are 3 of our SEAF positions are rocking and all the bottom positions are not doing as well. So a couple of kind of key things to note on flows. Like I said, flows are a little bit lighter. We were actually net negative on the week across all 3 sector spiders at a negative 0.13%. We didn't have any particular day that was either up 1% or down 1%, which is a little bit abnormal. Normally during the week we'll have a day where flows really take off. So everything was relatively muted. Again, that also screams inflection. Managers aren't putting on massive bets. They aren't throwing their chips into any one given direction. So again, I'm going to kind of repeat this point over. Another reason that we hit that inflection point. Financials. So what we're going to do this week, we're going to roll through into our rainbows, and then I'll show you some live charts. I think the overall goal of this video is to really drive home that we are at an inflection point. And I apologize for the consistency here, but I really do want to drive home that, the SEAF model is doing great things, but it doesn't always just tell us what the top 3 sectors are. Sometimes it tells us what the underlying feel of the broader market. So that's kind of the point that I'm trying to drive home. Financials really strong here. Top 3 in all 3 time periods, and we are seeing that relative outperformance. We've recently broken through on this relative performance versus SPY. A little bit of a upward resistance point has been broken through. Financials looking very strong. Off to technology. I brought technology up because it was sitting toward the very bottom of the SEAF for a little bit here. As you can see, we were sitting down in this avoid. We are starting to see some life. That life is materializing in a little bit of relative outperformance, but also note that we are very much in trading in a box in terms of the relative outperformance versus SPY. There's nothing to do yet here with technology, still toward the bottom of the SEAF rankings, but we did, like I said, we did see it come up. It is third on the trading week. Not super strong flows, 0.15% on that week, but starting to reach into neutral. And as we've seen in the past, this isn't the most perfect example, but when you trend from avoid to neutral to favored, you do have a tendency to pick up a little bit of relative outperformance. Not a SEAF signal, not even a recommendation, just something to keep an eye on. A strong reversal going from a tactical month at 11 to a positive trading week of 3. So, again, nothing to do here, just an interesting tidbit as we see if we can kind of touch this avoid and come up into favored. Could be the start of something new for technology. Again, we're at an inflection point. So as we sit up here into neutral, have to figure out, is technology going to lead us up, or is this thing going to fail? We don't know yet, but it is something to keep an eye on. Materials, similar boat. Materials sits in this neutral for quite often. We don't often see a bit of neutral or not a lot of materials. But again, watching them come up, materials was second on the trading week, 0.17%, showing a little bit of life, sitting up in this favored. We have had a little bit of relative performance coming from avoid, neutral, now into favored. So sit here to see what materials does. It's currently ranked 4th in the SEAF model, not a SEAF signal, but just a little bit of interesting movement here. We're actually going to take a look at the price chart in just a second. Communication services has been great. Top 2 on the trading week, top 2 in the model for the last couple of weeks going back, and overall looking relatively strong. Would like to see some of these, get it really up in the upper favored, but we have this really nice relative outperformance trend that we've had going back to October of last year. Communication services remain strong. Looks good. Last but actually least, in terms of our rainbow charts, energy continues to flatline a little bit. Really relative underperformance trend going back since April. Had multiple times where we've really tried to touch up into favored, gotten these little spurts of relative outperformance, and then coming right back down. We're going to keep an eye on energy, but as of right now, it is the worst ranked out of the SEAF model, and it's back into a void after its attempt at favored going back to January. So last thing I wanted to do is I wanted to bring up the top 4 live price charts in the top 4 in the SEAF, just to kind of show you guys where we're at. Again, hitting on that point that we're a little bit of at an inflection point in the market. This is the recent, what was resistance and now support for XLC. We're flirting with this line. So it's one of those things where I just wanted to highlight here that, again, we're at this kind of inflection point. We could fail here and then head down, or we could take off from here, but we've got a little bit of congestion right around this resistance line. As you can see, the market sees it. Financials, similar boat. We had this near-term high that we've kind of been flirting with. Had this nice little run-up, really nice relative outperformance. We're a little bit down on the day. Again, SEAF model isn't a daily trading activity. We track flows over 3 time periods, going back to a strategic quarter, and financials has been relatively strong. But again, going to that inflection point, we were sitting here at a recent high, which was support. We broke through it today a little bit, but we'll see where we finish up on the day. But we've been negotiating this line for the last couple of days. XLI, currently 3rd SEAF ranking. Playing with this cross here, the 21-day and the 50-day. Trying to negotiate this here. We're staying really north of this 21-day. So just, again, another inflection point. We're seeing it converge on the moving averages. And last but not least, also looking at materials, similar thing. We have this convergence of the moving averages. And again, sitting at an inflection point. Overall, we'll see from here. Again, we don't project out cash flows. I'm not out here trying to predict what's going to happen next week. But all I can say here is we're at a kind of a pivotal time in the market, and it's really a time to kind of dive in and look in and keep an eye on these rainbow charts. These rainbow charts do a really great job of letting you see when the scoring is high, showing trends of relative outperformance, and telling you places to be and not to be. That is all I have for this week. I look forward to breaking down the SEAF model with you all next week, and thank you.